Americans, there are jobs. Americans have jobs. They struggle to make ends meet. However, they're still spending. What is going on? We've sort of sidestepped the whole recession thing, I think. Let's find out. Um, Financial analyst, manager, and partner at Boardwalk Health. His name is Omar Khan. Joins us now. Omar, welcome to your morning wake up. How you doing?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm gonna be okay. This seems to be like a conundrum here. I can't get the marriage between, okay, there are jobs, there are people working, there are people spending like crazy, yet we struggle to put, food on the table as a people. What's the connection here? How is this working?
Well, how this is working right now, the data suggests that the savings that had accumulated during COVID are rapidly dwindling. So it's a bit like robbing Peter to pay Paul. People are using up their savings. It's not just their incomes, number one. Number two, most of the jobs data is pointing towards people taking up more part-time jobs. So the way it gets reported is it looks like people have more jobs. But when you actually dig into the jobs data, you figure out, well, these are lesser quality jobs and they are actually paying less. So now, earlier, if somebody's working 8 hours a day, they've got to work 12 hours a day to make the same amount of money.
So with unemployment, like I was reading over the weekend, it's 50-year lows. What that means, yeah, you might be working, but you're not making enough. And
Yeah.
boy, you got to have a couple of part-time jobs. That means if you have kids, now you're in big trouble because they're not giving child care away. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I
Uh,
know that. I have two kids. I know.
man. So how many kids you have?
I have two kids, and I can tell you, it's a lot more painful than whatever my parents did to raise us.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it something though? Because we even jobs today that you would think, and maybe this is all part of the UAW strike thing coming up, that may happen. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. But we were talking about this over the weekend. Jobs that generally our parents would have had, our fathers would have had, if they did these same jobs back then, they would have made enough to raise a family. Today, not so much. Is that the recession part of the economic equation taking a big bite there? What's the deal?
Yes, it is. And like a lot of data, what you're going to see is a big headline number. Everybody's going to be careful about their headline numbers, as in jobs. Then when you actually dig through the data, you realize that this is just a false mirage, and this thing is going to get worse before it even gets better. So when I hear all this cheerleading of, well, we're not completely in a recession, we kind of avoided it, I was like, well, this doesn't kind of make sense, because if you're working twice as many hours to stay in the same spot, that sounds a bit like a recession to me.
Yeah. And if we are rah-rah on that side of things with I guess, what would you call it, a plastic sort of non-real number, but we're all cheering it, or at least government folks are cheering it, does that mean we've turned a blind eye to it? That means we're not getting out anytime soon. Because if you don't see it, you're not dealing with it.
Well, you know that saying, ignorance is bliss, but in this case, bliss is with quotation marks.
All right. We're talking with Omar Khan. Dude Sickle knows his stuff. We're charging way more too now, aren't we? I mean, you've got that plastic in there. It doesn't. You don't realize that you're spending money. You just throw it out there.
Yeah, again, a lot of this data right now is, I don't want to sound like a doom and gloomer, but a lot of this data is Americans have to hunker down. We've got to save more, which is impossible to do in the current climate. And the other flip side to this is, right now, good news is bad news. Because, for instance, if there is better job data, if there is the economy is humming along more, the Fed is hell-bent on raising rates. So if they raise rates, this means employers will eventually have to cut jobs. So you're in this weird situation where damned if you do and damned if you don't. Because damned if you do, as if the situation improves, well, they're going to raise rates and your employer is going to fire you. And if the situation doesn't improve, well, your employer is going to keep you, but you're going to have to work like a dog for the rest of your
Yeah.
life.
Oh my gosh, Omar, you're depressing me,
Hey,
man.
man, I'm not the one trying to depress. I don't set government policy, but I'm not a government satrap, who's gonna come and just tell you everything is fine. Just keep working more.
Yeah, just get on the treadmill, work more
Yeah.
hours, which is never the way out.
Yeah.
Because there's the other side. Is it all bread and circuses? We talked about this before. Bread and circuses. Keep them happy. Keep them busy. Keep them with a Barbie movie and a hot choco latte, and everybody's going to be happy and fine. Are we just ignorant? Is that what it is? We're just wandering through. We're a bunch of sheep.
Partly, yes, but the other issue also is, have you been to the movies lately? Like, do you know how much it costs to take a family to even go watch the Barbie movie?
But the thing is, the Barbie movie, billions of people are going to see it, and they don't have the money to.
Apparently, because I can tell you this, every time I take my kids and my family to the movies, it's at least $100 by the time you add tickets, popcorn.
Yeah.
And I got 2 young kids, so they don't even consume a lot of stuff right now.
Wow. Used to be that was the cheap entertainment too. This is kind of funny.
Yeah, it's not cheap anymore.
No. It's but we're splurging. We're doing it. Is that maybe because we're emotional buying? We figure, you know what? I may be broke, but I'm getting my latte. Damn it.
Yeah, well, most of it right now is emotional buying. I think people have still, as the data suggests, a store of savings still left. This is a hangover, in a good way, from the pandemic. But that number has dwindled from close to $1 trillion to, I think, a shade over $100 billion now. So that's a 90% decrease. So till that savings number doesn't go to zero, people aren't necessarily going to be forced into taking proactive measures. But by that time, it's already too late.
And then you get another stimulus check, and you go like, oh, hey, the government's going to take care of me. Right?
Yeah. Well, you know how that works out, right?
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Omar, you are a real guy, a realist. Omar Khan, chartered financial analyst. What's that mean? You've gone through the schooling. You know your stuff, Chief.
Yeah, it basically means that you're a perpetual worrier. That's the fancy way.
So your kids, how old are they?
Yeah.
Omar, how old are your kids?
My kids are 3 and 5.
Okay. When do you start teaching them about finances as a financial genius, and what are you going to teach them?
Well, first of all, there is no age where you teach them. You have to show them by example, number one. Number two, it kind of starts from the start. So as an example, the other day I was with my young one. He's 3 years old. We went to buy some popsicles because I live in Dallas, which is it's always hot in Dallas. And while we were going to pick up our popsicles going towards the checkout counter, I went to buy flowers for my family, for my wife rather. And my son basically said, "Hey, Dad, we gotta pay for this." And part of it was annoying. I was like, I'm in the store, not leaving. But another part was very happy because just by the process of showing him every day that, hey, you've got to pay for what you buy. You can't just walk out of the store. That part was very good. So you have to show. I think when we start, when we have this inflection point in our head, hey, I am going to teach. Kids don't really learn like that. Kids learn by example.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And by the way, gentlemen, here's another lesson we just learned from Omar. Buy your wife some flowers, for crying out loud. That's good.
Well, you should. My wife does complain a little bit, so it's not always sunshine and roses.
Well, you give and take. Hey, Omar, it's a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate it, and we'll stay in touch. All right, pal?
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye for now.
See ya.